pretty fun, really. It's a world that we get to play in. It's like a massive playground full of all the elements that you want to see in high fantasy: horses, swords, monsters, beautiful vistas, amazing palaces. But none of that matters unless you've got characters that you care about. And so I think, our main focus has been making sure these people feel real to audiences. That, Lan and Moiraine, the characters we play, that when they enter the screen, you can feel that they've been on a journey together for the past 20 years. All of that is what ultimately will make the show successful or not, is how well the worlds are created and inhabited and how real the people feel.
Yeah, the sets as well. The sets have been so fantastic. I think one of my concerns was that how much blue screen are we going to use, green screen, VFX, and they're augmenting a lot. So a lot of the stuff is practical, and our set designer is just so incredibly talented, and these worlds that they've created, we get to play on these sets, and it's just to be in that sort of immersive world makes it so much easier for us to do what we have to do with these characters. And so, I mean, it's just, you feel like a little kid and your dreams are coming true playing in this real fantasy. I'm in a real castle on a real horse with a real sword, and it's so fantastic.
Yeah.
Already walking into production, the set for the first time, just coming to Prague, they bought this old factory and they turned it into what is now the Jordan Studios. That on itself was already quite mind-blowing. But then walking onto the two rivers for the first time, the first set was just, that was incredible, right?
Yeah, the magnitude of it, just like the size of the sets, and that first two rivers in that episode 1, hundreds of backgrounds and huge sets. I think we kind of realized the scale of the production.
For me, it was physical, a lot of physical stuff. The horse riding was very important, and the action. So I was not proficient with the sword. It is a katana-like sword. It's not a katana, but it's a smaller sword. It's light. And I practiced with a broadsword before and some sais, double hand sai, but never with a sword like this. So I knew some of the footwork, but it took quite a bit of practice with the sword that was that light on my back as well. And like I said,
so a light sword is harder to balance with, harder to get.
It's because it moves so much quicker. The mistakes can happen that much faster, like you said.
Yeah, so interesting. I mean, we're so lucky to have Daniel's ability, because obviously the better fighter an actor is, the more real and the more close you can get to the action, and the more you can be on fewer cuts you need. And I've been up close to all the fighting, and sometimes too close, but I've seen how completely mesmerizing he is doing these sequences and how much work he puts into them. I mean, really phenomenal amount of work. I think all of the work that you put into a show like this pays off, whether it's our riding training, fight training, dialect training. There are also there are so many new words in this world, and we have to have consistent pronunciation across there. So there's a lot of debate about how we're going to say these words. And, we have to explore with the Jordan estate, with the fan base, how people have heard these words in their heads, how people want these names to be said, how we feel they should be said. There's a lot of intricate things to discuss in this world.
Well, I guess at first there was the script, and then there were the books, and then as an actor it's a gift because there's just so much material to sink your teeth in. And then there were quite some skill sets to be learned. We had sword fighting, I myself had archery, we all didn't really know how to ride a horse, so that was something to learn as well. So that first month it was a big prep month for us all.
Yeah. I think learning all those things at the start, like that kind of we had an intense sort of training camp at the start with sword fighting, and like I sort of had axe kind of fight choreography and all those things, and then horse riding as well. Like Josha mentioned, is a skill that I'd never even been close to trying before. So,
now we're pros.
Now we're amazing at it.
We had a month of pre-production, so that entailed dialect coaching, stunt training, and horse riding lessons. So physically, we were well prepared to embody these characters. I think the casting has been so brilliantly done by Kelly Hendry and Rafe Judkins that there's a bit of the character in all of us just naturally. So I think we were always encouraged to just be yourself and just bring your own personal experience to this character. And from what we've seen, everyone's done an amazing job at doing so.
For me, I think there are lots of scenes on horseback. There are the ones that the horse, you're in sync, you ride well, the horse does exactly what you want, and it's fantastic, and you just feel great. And then there are the times where, you're trying to leave set as a gallop, and the horse just sort of ambles off and goes to chew some grass, and you think, oh, that's not very dramatic, is it? So I think we've all become much more proficient riders over the course of the year than when we were sort of bouncing around at the beginning.
There's the horses has been really challenging. I think that some of the weather conditions we find ourselves in, very, very long days, long nights, and we're on amazing locations that sometimes it's hard to get trailers and tents and everyone all the way to the place we're shooting. So you wrap yourself up in a thick coat and drink some hot ginger tea and hope for the best. And so, but it builds calluses, I guess.
At the very start of shooting, there was a scene that we shot in Slovenia on a mountaintop with Michael, who plays Rand's dad. And there was a sunset, and he has this monologue where he talks about the Wheel of Time and reincarnation. And it was a very peaceful moment right before shit happened. Yeah. So that was one of my favourite moments.
Similarly, I had a scene with an actress called Maria, who on Perrin's journey, she has a kind of a monologue where he kind of just listens to her kind of ethos around violence and how she navigates it. And I think it was just such a beautiful scene, just the two of us kind of sat by a fireplace, and it's something that I kind of always look back to very fondly.
One of them, I will say, was when we were at the end of episode 6. We all end up outside the Waygate, and we just recently watched it, and we were kind of giving ourselves all a pat on the back because it was beyond cold that day. Like, we were up kind of on this hill but exposed to all the elements, and it was really like a storm was coming. Which
like a hurricane came rolling over, and we're like, get out the way,
actually so I think for me a lot of it is the purely the battling of the real elements and conditions, and sometimes the night shoots out in various Czech forests covered in dirt and blood, but honestly it's all part of it, and it I think all of that too informs our performances as well.
I think when we're all together as a group, I really love those scenes. I mean, even like the one that Zoe mentioned, it was a very difficult day. We were against all of the elements. But, I often look back at those times because we're split up for so much of the time. So any time that we're all together as an ensemble, I really, really love.
I think it was the first time we were like all together.
All together. Yes, it was the first time we were all together on set. But, I think a particular challenge was the cliff scene where I take my little leap of faith. But, I had Zoe there to support me through that. So that was a challenge, but, it was amazing. So.
Well, it was a little bit different than usual because I was aware that it was the Wheel of Time, but not what character it was that I was auditioning for. That was very, very secret. So I only had those scenes, and that I fell in love with those scenes, and then I figured that I was going to play a Rand Arthur in the Wheel of Time, and that's when I realised there was a lot of work to be done.
I think the audition process was, you had very limited information and just a few scenes to go off, and the project had a different name. You didn't know who was attached to it, but I kind of knew it was this big fantasy show that Amazon were putting a lot of hopes onto. And then when you found out you got cast, I realised how big this kind of actually was, how big the community was, and I was just super excited to get started.
Rituals. Usually warm up with our dialect coach before that. 2 coffees, dialect session. Good to go. I don't really do too much.
No, for me, I just kind of look over the scenes again, but we do that with our amazing dialect coach, Naomi Todd. So I think it varies too. It depends on the day. If we're going through something mildly horrendous, and then maybe I'll do a little bit of listening to some music that helps me get into that, and yeah. But most of all, I think we've kind of been doing this for a long time now, that I feel like it's coming more and more naturally each day that we step onto set.
Yes. Yeah.
There's no, for me, there's no pattern, I guess, and that's, I guess, that becomes a pattern.
Yeah.
Every day is different. Sometimes you have night
inconsistent.
Yeah, consistent, inconsistent. Every day is different. Sometimes it's night shoots. Sometimes you're shooting in the summer, in the winter time, in Prague or in Croatia, Slovenia. That's I guess that the fun thing that it's never ever the same.